We do have NBC's Ron Allen, who is outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, with more on this significant decision, Ron. Again, just to remind our viewers of what is happening, where you are a jury there, found the Trump Organization guilty of all charges, 15 counts of tax fraud. So break down specifically what the jury said and what the meaning of this is.
What it means is that the prosecution convinced the jury that the Trump Organization, for a period of 15 years, was essentially running a scheme inside the company that was defrauding the taxpayers of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, the taxpayers of the state of New York, in the way it was conducting business. Now, the chief witness in this case was Alan Weisselberg, who was the former chief financial officer and close associate of Donald Trump and his family for generations, going back for a long, long time.
Hello everyone, your host Adam is here. If you've been anywhere near YouTube or social media in the last couple of weeks, you have absolutely seen them. The thumbnails are impossible to miss. Big bold red text screaming about federal marshals.
Tonight, two entities of the Trump Organization, the Trump Corporation, and the Trump Payroll Corporation found guilty of criminal tax fraud, convicted on all 17 counts, including tax fraud, falsifying business records, and conspiracy.
That is consequential. It underscores that in Manhattan, we have one standard of justice for all.
Trump was not charged, and the defense said he did not know, but prosecutors say he signed off on parts of the scheme, initialing memos like this one that prosecutors believe were intended to cheat tax officials. A Trump Organization spokesperson reacted to the guilty verdict, saying the notion that a company could be held responsible for an employee's actions to benefit themselves on their own personal tax returns is simply preposterous.
It will certainly be appealing, of course.
Felony convictions carry fines totaling up to $1.7 million.
Pictures of Trump Tower with yellow caution tape wrapped around the front doors. Titles that make your heart skip a beat. Federal marshals seize Trump properties after dawn raid.
More fallout tonight in the investigation of seized top-secret documents from former President Trump's Florida home.
A judge allowed a list of items found in Trump's home to be made public. KKLN political reporter Tom Wade is here now with that list and some surprising reaction, Tom.
And one, Pat, some of the experts we're speaking to are pretty surprised by what they're seeing in this list. So one of the big headlines from this list of what was found by the FBI is that almost 50 folders that were marked classified, well, they were found empty.
Trump's empire crumbles as marshals take control. Trump screams as marshals seize his iconic buildings. And the numbers are insane. These videos are pulling hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of views. The comment sections are absolutely exploding, with people celebrating or furious, sharing these links like they're breaking news alerts from CNN or Fox. And here's the thing I need you to understand before we go any further. None of it is real. Not a single word. No federal marshals stormed Trump Tower at dawn. Nobody showed up at Mar-a-Lago with seizure orders. There are no government placards on the doors of Doral or any Trump golf course. It didn't happen, but the videos are racking up massive engagement, massive view counts, massive shares, and people in the comments genuinely believe this just happened. They think Trump just lost everything. And here's the craziest part. If you actually click into these videos, if you sit down and watch the whole thing or read the description box, many of them straight up tell you it's fictional. They literally say, and I'm quoting directly here, "This content is fictional and not intended to represent real events." It's right there in their own descriptions. But the thumbnails don't say that, do they? The titles don't say that. The narration doesn't sound like fiction. It sounds like a news broadcast. It gives you exact timestamps. Marshals arriving at 6:15 a.m. at a Westchester golf course, 6:20 a.m. at a Wall Street office building. It gives you dollar amounts, $540 million, $570 million in fraud judgments. It gives you fake Trump social media meltdowns at 3 a.m. where he supposedly posts about marshals in his house and theft by radical judges. None of that happened. All of it was invented. But it sounds exactly like real news, and that is the entire point. Let me walk you through exactly how this formula works, because once you see it, you're going to start recognizing it everywhere. not just with Trump content, but across political YouTube entirely. These videos all follow the same template. The title reads like a breaking news headline, "Just now, Trump's empire destroyed. Federal marshals seize iconic properties after $570 million fraud." Every single one is designed to make you think you missed something massive. Like you woke up this morning and the world changed overnight and somehow you didn't hear about it. That's the hook. That's what gets the click. And let's be honest, if you saw that thumbnail on your feed, you'd probably click it too. That's the whole game. Once you're inside, the narration kicks in and it sounds exactly like a news report. It's not some guy in his basement rambling into a webcam. These videos use AI text-to-speech voices that sound professional and polished. They've got background music. They've got stock footage of courthouses and federal buildings and men in suits walking around looking serious. And the narration gives you incredibly specific details. They'll tell you federal marshals executed seizure orders on 3 Trump Organization properties across 2 states. They'll give you exact arrival times. They'll cite specific fraud judgment amounts. They'll describe federal notices being posted on the doors of Trump Tower. They'll describe Trump being effectively evicted from Mar-a-Lago. They'll describe a Trump social media meltdown at 3 a.m. raging about radical judges and theft. Every single one of those details was made up. All of it. The timestamps, the dollar amounts, the properties, the social media posts. Fabricated. But it doesn't feel fabricated when you're watching it. It feels like somebody did investigative journalism. It feels like news. That's how it's designed to work. Now here's where it gets infuriating. Many of these videos do include disclaimers. Some put it at the beginning. Some bury it in the description box. They'll say something like, "This content is fictional and not intended to represent real events," or "dramatized for illustrative purposes." And you might think, well, if they put a disclaimer, what's the problem? But let's be serious for a second. When your title says, "Just now, Trump's empire destroyed," and your thumbnail shows Trump Tower with crime scene tape, and your narration spends 20 minutes giving hyper-specific details about dawn raids and seizure orders, putting a tiny disclaimer in your description box doesn't undo any of that. That's like putting a sign on the back door that says, "Just kidding," while the front of your building screams, "The world is ending." Nobody reads the fine print. Everybody reads the headline. These creators know that. They're counting on it. Some of them might genuinely believe they're doing political commentary or exploring what-if scenarios based on real legal cases. And fine, there's a conversation to be had about political fiction and speculative content. But when you title your video "Just Now" and present invented facts as though they just happened, that's not commentary. That's not satire. That's manufacturing outrage for clicks. And the engagement numbers prove it works because people in the comments are reacting as if this is real. They're celebrating. They're furious. They're sharing it with friends and family saying, "Did you see what just happened to Trump?" And their friends and family aren't going to check the description box for a disclaimer. Nobody does that. Let me tell you why this matters beyond just being annoying or misleading. This stuff actually shapes how people think about Trump, about the courts, about the legal system, about whether justice is being served or weaponized. If you're someone who wants to see Trump held accountable and you watch one of these videos believing it, you now think the system is working. Marshals are seizing his stuff. The fraud judgments are being enforced. Justice is happening. And then, when you find out none of it was real, what does that do to your trust? It makes you cynical. It makes you feel manipulated. It makes you less likely to believe actual real reporting when real things actually happen. And if you're someone who supports Trump, these videos are absolute rocket fuel for the weaponization narrative. Because now Trump and his allies can point to millions of views worth of fictional content about marshals raiding his properties and say, "See, this is what they do. They make up stories. They fabricate raids. The media and the left are so desperate to destroy me that they're literally manufacturing fake news about federal seizures." And honestly, in this specific case, that argument actually has some merit because these videos are fake. So it hands Trump a legitimate grievance on a silver platter and undermines the credibility of people trying to report on his actual real legal problems. Now let's talk about what's actually real. Because the reason these fake videos work so well is that they're built on a foundation of things that actually happened, and the real stuff is dramatic enough without anyone needing to make things up. The big one is the New York civil fraud case brought by Attorney General Letitia James against Trump and the Trump Organization. This is a real case with real consequences. The court found that Trump and his organization committed fraud by inflating property values to get better loan terms and insurance deals. The penalties were massive, hundreds of millions of dollars. And here's the key detail that launched 1,000 fake videos. Attorney General Letitia James publicly said she was prepared to seize Trump's buildings if he failed to pay. That's real. She actually said that. That actually happened. That real factual statement from a real attorney general is the seed that all this fictional content grew from. Because if you're a content creator looking to make a viral video, you take that real quote, that real legal case, and you extrapolate. You imagine what it would look like if Marshals actually showed up. You invent the timestamps and the property addresses and the social media meltdowns. You dress it up with AI voices and stock footage and dramatic music, and suddenly you've got a video that feels completely real because it's rooted in something that was actually said. But everything on top of that foundation is fiction. The actual legal situation is complicated and serious and doesn't need embellishment. The real fraud findings, the real financial penalties, the real statements from attorneys general about asset seizure, that's all genuinely significant stuff. You don't need to invent a 3:00 a.m. Trump meltdown or fake Marshall timestamps to make this story compelling. The facts are compelling on their own, but facts don't get as many clicks as fiction. Facts are complicated. Facts require nuance. Facts don't fit neatly into a 20-minute AI-narrated video with a red text thumbnail. That's the fundamental problem we're dealing with here. Not just with this specific Trump story, but with political content in general in 2026. The incentive structure of social media and YouTube rewards the most extreme, most emotional, most click-worthy version of every story. And when real news can't compete with manufactured outrage, the people making the fiction win the algorithm every single time. What we just walked through is basically a case study in how political misinformation works in 2026. And I'm not even talking about traditional misinformation where somebody lies and says a thing happened that didn't happen. This is something weirder. This is content that technically tells you it's fake. It puts a disclaimer somewhere. But it's packaged and presented in a way specifically designed to be consumed as if it's real. It's misinformation with an asterisk. It's fiction wearing a news costume. And the platforms don't really have a mechanism to deal with that because technically the creator said it was fictional. So is it misinformation? Is it satire? Is it political commentary? Nobody really knows. And in the meantime, it's getting millions of views and shaping what people think is happening in the real world. This is only going to get worse. AI tools for generating realistic narration are getting better every month. AI tools for generating realistic thumbnails and visuals are getting better. The cost of producing one of these videos is basically zero. You don't need a newsroom. You don't need reporters. You don't need sources. You need a script, an AI voice generator, some stock footage, and a talent for writing clickbait titles. That's it. And you can pump out 3 or 4 of these a day if you want to. We're heading into a world where the volume of fictional political content that looks and sounds like real news is going to absolutely explode, and it's happening right when voters need accurate information the most. The people most affected by this are the people least equipped to spot it. If you're someone who follows politics casually, you check YouTube a couple times a week, you scroll through your feed, you are exactly the target audience for this kind of content. You're not going to cross-reference the video against court documents. You're not going to check the description box for disclaimers. You're going to see the thumbnail, click the video, watch the narration, and walk away thinking federal marshals just seized Trump Tower. Then you're going to tell your friend about it at work the next day. The misinformation spreads not because people are stupid, but because the content is engineered to be indistinguishable from real reporting. So what do you do about it? The single most important thing is pulling back the curtain, showing people how the sausage is made. Because once you see the formula, the clickbait title, the AI narration, the hyper-specific fake details, the buried disclaimer, you can't unsee it. You start recognizing it instantly. You start asking the right questions when you see these videos on your feed. Questions like, did any actual news outlet report this? Is there a court filing I can look at? Is this narration giving me real sources or just vibes? Those questions are your best defense against this stuff. I'm not defending Trump here. I'm not saying his legal problems aren't real. They are very real. The civil fraud case is real. The financial penalties are real. The possibility of asset seizure was real enough that the Attorney General of New York publicly said she was prepared to do it. All of that is true. What I am saying is that when you flood the internet with fictional versions of real legal threats, you make it harder for people to understand what's actually happening. You muddy the water. You give ammunition to people who want to dismiss legitimate legal accountability as fake news. You make it impossible for regular people to have an informed opinion about one of the most consequential legal and political stories of our time. That's what these viral Marshals seize Trump properties videos are doing. They're not informing people. They're not holding anyone accountable. They're farming clicks by manufacturing outrage. And whether you're on the left or the right, that should bother you. Because the next time you see a headline about Trump's legal problems, you're going to have to wonder if it's real or if it's another dramatized fantasy with a disclaimer buried in the description box. That uncertainty, that erosion of trust is the real damage here. Not the fake Marshals, not the fake dawn raids. The damage is that nobody knows what to believe anymore. And that's exactly how it's designed to work.